From stories across the globe to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Sharifa Tahir.
And I am Tilina Udayaratna. First of all, let's take a look at tonight's top stories.
Sri Lanka and Pakistan agree to enhance relations in several fields. The foreign minister requests all friendly countries to express protest over the Geneva resolution against Sri Lanka. The COVID-19 vaccine has already been given to more than 366,000 people. The president reiterates that the government is committed to resolving workers' problems.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. An official meeting between Prime Minister of Pakistan Imran Khan and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has taken place at the President's office this morning. The Pakistan Prime Minister, upon arrival at the President's office, was welcomed by President's Secretary P.B. Jayasundara and Foreign Secretary Admiral Jayanath Columbage. The President and the Pakistan Prime Minister have discussed in depth on the bilateral relations. They have focused attention on the exchange of technical knowledge for agricultural promotion. The two heads of state have stressed that their target is to uplift agroeconomy in a manner to provide higher income to the farmer and also relief to the consumer. The Pakistan Prime Minister has pointed out that the agro-based economies of both countries are very much similar in outlook. Pakistan is a significant party in the local export sector. Both the President and the Pakistan Prime Minister focused attention on strengthening bilateral trade and expanding investment opportunities. The President has invited the Pakistani people to tour in Sri Lanka after the controlling of the COVID pandemic. The two heads of state have stressed on the exchange of technical knowledge and progress in the tourism sector. Foreign Minister of Pakistan Masdoom Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Pakistan Prime Minister's advisor Abdul Razak, Pakistan Prime Minister's Special Assistant in Foreign Affairs Mukhari Said Zulfiq, Foreign Secretary Sohail Mahmood, Pakistan High Commissioner in Sri Lanka retired Major General Mohammad Saad Khatak, Ministers Dinesh Gunawardena and Ali Sabri, President's Secretary P.B. Jayasundara, and Chief Advisor Lalit Veeratunga, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Admiral Professor Jayanath Columbage also attended the meeting. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has also recorded a note in the book reserved for diplomatic guests. The Prime Ministers of the two countries have attended a dinner held at the Temple Trees last night.
Well, on the same note, a discussion was conducted with the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan regarding the setting up of a high-performance sports centre. Minister of Sports Namal Rajapaksa conducted the talks at the Shangri-La Hotel premises in Colombo today. It has been decided to construct the centre in Kirimandalamawatha, Navala. Speaker Mahinda Abeyewardena, MPs and ministers and veterans in the field of sports also took part in this discussion. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, upon successful conclusion of a two-day official tour, has left the island this evening. Ministers Dinesh Gunawardena, Keheliya Ramukwella, Prasanna Ranatunga and Namal Rajapaksa arrived at the airport to bid farewell to the departing Prime Minister. And in more news, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says that both Sri Lanka and Pakistan have great potential in trade and investment cooperation to boost the country's economies. Pakistan is expected to gain knowledge and experience in enhancing tourism in Pakistan, including Buddhist tourism in the country. Prime Minister Imran Khan made these remarks while addressing the Joint Trade and Investment Conference held in Colombo today. The Pakistan-Sri Lanka Joint Trade and Investment Conference was held today as a part of the two-day official visit of Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan to Sri Lanka. The Pakistani Prime Minister graced the event as the chief guest and preceded the conference with his Sri Lankan counterpart Mahinda Rajapaksa. The joint conference was organized with the aim to promote and enhance trade and investment relations between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Accordingly, both Pakistani and Sri Lankan business leaders were given the opportunity during the conference to discuss on potential ventures in various sectors to heighten trade and investment cooperation between the countries. The high-level delegation from Pakistan, including Foreign Minister of Pakistan Makhdoom Shah Mahmood Qureshi and advisor to the Pakistani Prime Minister on Commerce and Investment Abdul Razak Dawood, Pakistani's High Commissioner to Colombo, retired Major General Muhammad Zaad Khattak, Ministers Dinesh Gunawardena, Bandula Gunawardena, Vimal Veeravansa and Mahindananda Ludgamage and State Minister Ajit Niwad Kabral were present on this occasion.
Of our people, the region, and the region. Today, we will not only assist our business community and enjoy excellent relations.
My motivation in politics was only one: poverty alleviation. I struggled for way back in almost 25 years ago. I entered politics because I felt that the best way to reduce poverty in our country would be to set up a welfare state. And today, I must say, I had a very good conversation with the President, because I realized that he also was motivated by poverty alleviation. And so the current problem in Pakistan which we face is food inflation. And so we were discussing how to bring down the prices of food items. He told me how he went to China and he actually visited various farms from where he discovered that how the Chinese how they had reduced the gap between the wholesale and the retail. And so the Chinese reduced that gap through technology. And so I must say, I thank the President, because I'm immediately going to go back and bring in technology to reduce this gap. So the reason behind backing our businesses, the business community and investment, is that if the final goal is to alleviate poverty, create wealth, alleviate poverty. One thing which Sri Lanka and we have had in common is that whenever you have conflict or terrorism, as Sri Lanka and Pakistan suffered from, then the first thing that it affects is the business climate, is investment, and in your case, tourism. Immediately when I came into power, I approached our neighbor, India, explained to them, to Prime Minister Modi, that the way forward for the subcontinent is for us to resolve our differences through dialogue and then improve our trading relationship and diffuse the tension. I didn't succeed, but I'm optimistic that eventually sense will prevail that the only way we in the subcontinent can get people out of poverty is have trading relationship, improve our trading relationship, live as civilized neighbors like the Europeans live. Germany and France have God knows how many wars they've fought and how many millions have been killed fighting each other. But today, it's unthinkable for them to have a conflict because they're so interlinked together because of business. They're so interlinked. The trading ties are so strong, and especially after the European Union, that it's unthinkable that these countries could ever have another war. So similarly, my dream for the subcontinent is that we resolve our difference, and our difference is only one. It's the Kashmir issue. All we want is it to be resolved according to the United Nations Security Council resolution. And this can only be resolved through dialogue. What we've seen in the world in the last 20, 30 years, that when you have conflict between nations, it only breeds more conflicts. A nation goes into war to supposedly to solve one problem, they create 5 other problems after that. Everything is subservient to investment and well-being and business. And so the same thing should apply in the subcontinent. We need to resolve our differences through dialogue, not through conflict. Because eventually, when you do not trade, when these huge, the subcontinent with almost 1.3 billion people, imagine the potential it has. It is one of the biggest markets. And the only thing, in my opinion, keeping it where it is right now, unfortunately, is that our inability to resolve our political differences through dialogue. We have a a relationship that has huge potential for both the countries. From Pakistan point of view, I think the most we can learn from Sri Lanka is in tourism, because you have a much more advanced tourism industry compared to us. Pakistan has enormous potential in tourism, but it's completely, that potential so far is being discovered by local tourism, but not by foreign tourists. So therefore, I brought a tourism minister here, and we would like to have contacts with you in developing resorts in most of our, not just mountain areas. Pakistan also has probably the most undiscovered religious tourism. For people in Sri Lanka, what is of great interest is the Gandhara civilization, the Gandhara Buddhist civilization. North of Islamabad was the center of the Buddhist civilization, and we have discovered various new sites for Buddhist tourists to visit Pakistan. So apart from mountain tourism and religious tourism, we have a coastline where we can, of course, again learn from Sri Lanka, because you have quite advanced beach tourism. Finally, I would like to ask the business community in Sri Lanka to participate in our CPEC project. CPEC is an initiative of the BRI, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, and it opens the opportunity of Sri Lankan businesses right up to Central Asia. This is the connectivity which Pakistan offers. Along with, in CPEC, we have these special economic zones which give incentives to businesses to set up industry there. So I invite the Sri Lankan businesses, investors, businessmen. You can come over to Pakistan and we'll be hosting you. Meanwhile, we brought our Pakistan business community, top businessmen here, who will be interacting with you and discussing various ways which would be of mutual benefit to both of us. I again thank the Prime Minister for inviting me to Sri Lanka. I extend my invitation to you, Mr. Prime Minister. We look forward to seeing you.
We have not done so well in our cooperation with regard to trade and investment. The targets that we have set for ourselves seem to be quite low, in my view. We shouldn't be looking at $300–400 million of trade and investment. We should be looking at a lot more. The relationships that we have, the friendships that we enjoy, the way in which we have cooperated with each other tells us that we should be talking about trade and investment in the billions. Let's see whether today would be the day where we start on that journey, where today we will find ways and means by which we can cooperate to bring up those numbers that we should be actually reaching out to. We all have understood that there is a resource gap within our countries, and that resource gap has to be filled with investment. We have to reach out for resources, we have to invite investment, we have to take loans, and we have to reach out and make sure that our countries progress. We have to make sure that we invest in each other's countries. So I think we need to now think differently as to how we can cooperate with each other, where we can invest in each other's countries. Your State Bank of Pakistan, our central bank, should now be looking at ways in which we can cooperate. Those are the big tickets in cooperation. We must reach out for trade within our private sectors. It's a very important part, but we need to also look at these big tickets where we can make a difference in the way we would do business between countries in the future.
In the meantime, several of the ministers in the delegation of the two-day official tour of Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, have conducted special discussions with several local ministers. Several agreements of understanding have also been signed. A meeting between Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mastum Shah Mahmood Qureshi, and Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has taken place at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs today. Attention has been focused on several diplomatic issues, including bilateral relations at the meeting. Both ministers have reiterated that the long-standing friendship between the two countries should be continuously maintained. Officials in foreign ministries of both countries were also present on this occasion. The Foreign Minister of Pakistan has made a note in the book reserved for diplomatic guests. An agreement of mutual understanding for the implementation of a joint program of promotion of tourism between Sri Lanka and Pakistan has been signed today. Tourism Minister of Pakistan, Sahid Zulfikar Abbas Bakhari, and Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga have signed the agreement on behalf of the two countries at the ministry. The Pakistani Foreign Minister said on this occasion that ancient ruins of Buddhist heritage are seen in several areas in Pakistan. It has also been pointed out on this occasion that the interest shown by Sri Lankan tourists to watch ancient Buddhist artifacts would pave the way to the progress of tourism between the two countries. The Pakistan cricket team is scheduled to arrive in the island next June. The two ministers ministers have also focused attention to enlighten tourism promoters of both countries and also to enhance investment opportunities in tourism. Secretary to the Ministry of Tourism, S.H.T.R. Chairperson of the Tourism Development Authority, Himali Fernando, have also taken part in the discussion. A meeting between Trade Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena and Pakistan Minister of Trade has also taken place today at the Trade Ministry. The Pakistan Trade Minister said that all taxes other than custom duties on items including betel being exported to Pakistan from Sri Lanka will be removed. He added that the trade policy of his government would lead to the creation of a market with more opportunities for Sri Lankan produce. Attention has also been focused on the need to enter into a new agreement of understanding in trade activities and also on the carrying forward of the existing free trade agreement without obstructions. The Pakistan minister has also expressed willingness to implement a relief credit program between the two countries for the importation of essential consumer items. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena has pointed out on this occasion on the need for more investments in Sri Lanka's technical education sector. He has also stressed on the need to create more opportunities for Sri Lankan products in the global market and to enhance international relations. Secretaries to the Ministries of Trade of both countries as well as Director General of the Sri Lanka Export Development Board were among the officials who have attended the meeting.
Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena requests all friendly countries to express their protest over the proposal against Sri Lanka at the Human Rights Council session in Geneva. The minister addressing the 46th United Nations Human Rights Council's session has made the request over video technology around 9:10 p.m. Sri Lanka time yesterday. 47 countries have joined the UN Human Rights session, which commenced last Monday. The session is being conducted over video technology, and as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, it has to be done so. A 6-member core group is scheduled to present a proposal regarding Sri Lanka to the Council session. It has also been reported that the United Nations Human Rights Commissioner's report on Sri Lanka is scheduled to be presented to the conference today. The main objective of the Foreign Minister's address was to clarify on the stance of the government regarding facts being presented against Sri Lanka.
I now have the honour to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr.
The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has published a report on Sri Lanka, accompanied by an unprecedented propaganda campaign on that report. Sri Lanka heroic armed forces militarily neutralized the LTT in 2009 after 3 decades of conflict. The Sri Lankan government acted in self-defense to safeguard the unitary state, sovereignty and territorial integrity from the world's most ruthless separatist terrorist organization. The LTT is the only terrorist organization in the world which has killed 2 world leaders, a serving president of Sri Lanka and former Prime Minister of India, extending its terror beyond the borders of Sri Lanka. End of terrorism guaranteed the most cherished of all human rights, right to life of all Sri Lankans, Sinhala, Tamil and Muslims. The rejection of this resolution by the people's Sri Lanka was clearly manifested in the mandate received by His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in November 2019. Based on this mandate, I announced at the 43rd session of this Council that Sri Lanka would withdraw from co-sponsorship of the resolution. I also stated that Sri Lanka would remain engaged with the UN system, including this Council. It is regrettable that despite the spirit of cooperation with the HRC and its mechanisms, elements working against Sri Lanka intend to table another country-specific resolution based on the OHCHR report. This rejected report by Sri Lanka has unjustifiably broadened its scope and mandate further, incorporating many issues of governance and matters that are essentially domestic in any self-respecting sovereign country. I leave it to the members and observers of this Council to make their own judgment on whether Sri Lanka represents a situation that warrants urgent attention of this Council, or if this campaign is essentially a political move that contravenes the very values and principles on which this Council has been established. The Council must hold the scales even, not going by hearsay, unilateral action, or one-angle doubtful resources, but adhere to its guiding principles, insistent on such ever-expanding, externally driven prescriptions, notwithstanding our continuous cooperation and engagement with this Council can pose numerous challenges. As the Council is aware, this is a critical time to the entire world in the last 100 years, where we need to be united in our efforts to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic and to revive the battered economies. I appeal to the members of this Council to take note of our continued engagement and cooperation on its merit and support us by rejecting any resolution against Sri Lanka. We believe that the extent to which the resources and time of this Council has been utilized on Sri Lanka is unwarranted and carries a discouraging message to the sovereign states of the global South. The need of the hour in face of an unprecedented pandemic is solidarity rather than rancor and acrimony arising from divisions within this Council. In view of these circumstances set out above, we urge that this resolution be rejected by the Council and be brought to closure.
The report on Sri Lanka by the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, is also to be presented to the sessions today. This is the final item on the agenda of the session for today. The proposal is scheduled to be submitted around 9:30 p.m. Sri Lanka time. Thereafter, a debate is to be conducted on this issue.
A special brief documentary depicting the brutality and barbaric nature of the LTTE terrorist group was released to the social media yesterday. The report, titled Truth Behind Dare, amply demonstrates the viciousness, forceful conscription of children and other acts of crime. The documentary is equipped with hitherto not shown scenes of cruelty of the LTTE organization. The scenes clearly illustrates how the masses in the north and east, including children, were brainwashed with the concept of liberation and bravery in order to make them scapegoats of the organization. The scenes of giving basic training on weapons to school-going children, using of different types of bombs by these children, storming villages and killing civilians and army personnel have been shown. Similarly, other barbaric acts such as testing explosives and bombs and using goats as targets for shooting have been included. In the recent times, social media published stories on how the LTTE diaspora were expressing pro-LTTE opinions using small children and youth. This documentary was in response to such misinformation.
Well, on tonight's COVID-19 update, the epidemiology unit says that the AstraZeneca vaccine has so far been provided to 366,907 persons under the COVID-19 inoculation program. The vaccination program has been carried out successfully throughout the island today as well. The vaccination program has continued for the 27th day today. 12,555 persons were vaccinated yesterday. Under the program to inoculate the Mahasangha, the vaccine was given to Anunayaka Theras of the Malwatha chapter, Venerable Dimul Kumbure Sri Vimaladhamma and Venerable Niyangoda Sri Vijitasiri Theras at the Kandy National Hospital today. Chief incumbent of the Askariya Mahapirivana, Venerable Narampanave Ananda Thera was also inoculated. Vaccination on police officials has taken place at the police field headquarters today. Police media spokesman DIG Ajit Rohana says that 15,331 officials of the Sri Lanka police have already been vaccinated. 2,254 police officials were inoculated yesterday. A vaccination program was also conducted at the maternal home in Kirula Road, Narahimpita today. 750 persons were inoculated. Vaccinations of residents in Colombo 12, 13 and 14 took place at the Pamulu Child Welfare Centre in Colombo 13 today. 1,200 people were vaccinated. Another 300 persons who were staff members of the District Cooperative Hospital in Galle have also been vaccinated. The number of recoveries from COVID-19 has reached 76,514. It is a percentage of 94.23, and another 4,234 COVID-19 patients are under treatment at various treatment centers. 19,353 patients have left hospitals from the beginning of this month after recovering from the virus. Another 672 persons left hospitals after recovering from the virus today. Another 192 COVID-19 patients were detected in the island today. 11,222 PCR tests were conducted yesterday. A total of 2,055,204 PCR tests have been conducted in the country so far. The introduction of medicine produced by indigenous physicians on the COVID-19 disease took place at the Ministry of Indigenous Medicine today. State Minister Sisira Jayakodi has presided over the event where 5 indigenous physicians produced their medicine. Meanwhile, Minister Prasanna Ranatunga has instructed authorities to take immediate measures against certain financial institutions which have failed to provide the relief granted by the government to service providers, including tourist drivers, by taking into consideration the COVID-19 pandemic. He further says that the Ministry of Finance and Central Bank should mediate in this regard. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that the government is committed to resolving labour disputes. He has called upon trade union representatives to extend assistance to the government to fulfilling the promises given to the people. The president made these observations at a meeting with trade union representatives affiliated to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna at the president's office yesterday. The commission is assigned to simultaneously coming up with
The President on this occasion has also appreciated the contributions made by the trade unions affiliated to the SLPP to bring the present government into power. He has also pointed out that the state service should be turned into a vibrant, efficient and productive force in order to realize the expectations of the general public. The government is always prepared to listen to the trade unions and also to act in close collaboration with these bodies. The COVID crisis appears to be receding. The President further said that therefore he hopes to conduct talks with the trade unions once in every 3 months. The President has also requested the TU representatives to move away from the mentality of state institutions relying upon the funds of the Treasury for sustenance. Instead, state bodies should be transformed into efficient and profitable institutions. The President, explaining the path of the government, said that they took over the administration of the country knowing very well the challenges ahead. The debt burden of the country was enormous. The economy was in a very bad shape. The President added that they had the vision to overcome these obstacles. Despite the roadblocks to the progress due to the eruption of COVID-19 pandemic, the country was able to achieve remarkable successes. The country's export earnings have returned to pre-COVID period. However, the President added that due to the policy adopted by the government in the face of the pandemic, agriculture did not collapse. Everything that can be grown in this country is being cultivated. The President also said that they could now see the positive effects of such actions, recalling that the former President and incumbent Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa is a leader who fought for and won the rights of the workers. The President said that his government also follows the same policy and always ready to solve issues through dialogue. Recognizing the contribution and sacrifices made by the trade unions affiliated to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to bring the current government to power, the President has pointed out that the public service should be transformed into a strong, efficient and effective one in order to meet the aspirations of the people. Long-term steps have been taken to build a people-centric national economy with a strong industrial network. All efforts have been made to grow locally everything that could be cultivated within the country. The country is beginning to realize the conducive outcome of these measures. The President has further pointed out that one of the main sources of income of the nation, the tourism industry, has been completely collapsed. Many of the countries of which most of the tourists engaged in visits to Sri Lanka continuously remain closed. Therefore, it would take some time to restore the industry. Commenting on the unemployment issue, the President said that the present government has been able to provide jobs to 60,000 graduates who were in line to receive government jobs. He further said that the program to provide 100,000 jobs to persons selected from most poor families is also being implemented successfully. So far, 35,000 eligible persons have been recruited in the program. The aim is to provide jobs to a further 35,000 persons in the next stage. The President added that long-term measures have been taken to build a people-centered local economy along with a strong industrial network. He also said that, however, certain social media are engaged in distorting the reality and spreading false concepts. The President, responding to a request of trade union representatives, further said that the heads of the state institutions have been informed to act in cooperation with the trade unions. If there is any discrepancy in this connection, it could be rectified in due course. President of the Progressive Trade Union Centre, Minister Gamini Lokage, has proposed the President to appoint a labour director to every corporation. The trade union representatives have pointed out that there are employees in local government institutions who have not yet received permanent appointments despite fulfilling a 180-day service period. The national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Basil Rajapaksa, said that jobs of such employees will be secured without causing a burden to the local government institutions. State Ministers Dilum Amunagama, Kantana Vijayasekara, Janaka Vakkamura and parliamentarians Sagara Karyavasam, Jagat Kumara and Janata Ketagora have also attended the meeting.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed a Presidential Commission of Inquiry to evaluate the state of current affairs of the Sri Lanka Customs Department and made recommendations to enhance its effectiveness. The Commission is assigned to simultaneously coming up with recommendations to making services by SL Customs more efficient and effective while dealing with various allegations and alleged irregularities against it. Another responsibility entrusted with the Presidential Commission of Inquiry is to make suggestions to ensure and maintain total transparency in the functioning of SL Customs, taking into account security and quarantine rules in the utilization of information technology. The President directed the Commission of Inquiry to consult the opinions of the public and other parties and to review the proposals submitted by the customs trade unions. Supreme Court Judge Shiran Anthony Gunaratne has been appointed the chairman of the Commission. Court of Appeal Judge Priyantha Fernando, High Court Judge Dhammitotta Avatta, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, KMM Sirivardhana, Senior Trade Expert Dr. Sanat Jayanetti and former Additional Director General P.A. Dias are the other members of the Commission.
In the meantime, a new 20 rupees coin minted in connection with the 70th anniversary of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was presented to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa this afternoon by Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman. The coin, made out of steel, has a nickel cover. It is 7-dimensional. The Central Bank says 5 million coins will be put into circulation from the 3rd of next month.
Well, that's it on the news for tonight. Join us once again tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching. Have a great night.
Good night.